Welcome to this presentation of how to multiply IBM programmer productivity, capability, and value with streaming video and automation. My name is Paul Houston Harkins of Harkins & Associates, Inc., and I'm the inventor and the author of the real-time program audit for IBM. Harkins & Associates is a IBM registered business partner, and we've gotten some terrific response from people like Don Rima, editor of ICU's magazine, who wrote, "I wish IBM would make this product part of the base OS." That is exactly what I'm offering today, to make the real-time program audit for IBM available to every single IBM programmer worldwide and every single IBM customer worldwide, with every single IBM computer, regardless of size, worldwide, for the cost to distribute RTPA via the internet, which would be less than $200. The purpose of that is to triple or more or greatly enhance the value of the IBM computer to the world at large, including the programmers, the customers, and even to IBM, even to IBM itself. The topics of this video, which we'll try to cut through and make short, are simply that RTPA is a revolutionary software invention, which I invented after some 40 or 50 or 60, even 60 years as an IBMer and an IBM consultant, working with literally thousands of customers worldwide, IBM programmers. And I could witness and vividly agree with and understand that 75% of the programmers' time is actually spent on debugging, on guessing what's happening, on trying to use the antiquated tools like IBM Debug to understand what was happening and understand what was in their millions of lines of IBM code, whether it's RPG, COBOL, or CL. And so I wrote RTPA to provide a streaming video of what was actually executing in the computer, so that all of that wasted time could be eliminated and the programmers could become much more valuable and happy with their jobs and satisfied with how they're helping their IBM customers succeed. We'll go through some of the IBM computers, statistics, and customer statistics, the most important of which is the IBM Power 9 and Power 10, which you will see on this computer in about 5 minutes, actually demonstrated. You'll see that the power is so incredible and the cost is so cheap that literally programmers can get thousands of programs compiled every day, whereas before, when I started at IBM in the 1960s, we would get one compile a day on an IBM 1401, which preceded the IBM System 3 at night at Girard Bank, because the computers were expensive and people were cheap. That is totally reversed today, and RTPA takes advantage of doing that. Essentially, the opportunity is there are 120,000 IBM customers with 250,000 IBM computers and about 384,000 programmers, IBM programmers, and they're costing about $40 billion a year annually. And that cost could be less than halved and the productivity more than doubled or tripled by simply using RTPA, which we're providing and offering for free, literally free, the cost of distributing that to customers via the internet. So what this offer is, as you can see, is a perpetual license of RTPA to any IBM customer for an IBM serial number of any size for the cost simply to distribute it via the internet, and that would be less than $200. Another option is for a little tender loving care. We'll provide an 1-hour internet kickoff meeting with the customer via the internet to really illustrate RTPA and show some of the wonderful techniques. And that is for less than $1,000 for any IBM serial number. The last thing we'll do is we'll show the demonstration of the IBM Power 9 in about 5 minutes, and we'll see the power of RTPA, which could be yours, should be yours perhaps, within weeks for RTPA, virtually for free. Without going into a lot of detail, which you can see, it is a revolutionary software invention. And what it does is it provides a streaming video with a timestamp of every executing instruction, and it eliminates the need for IBM debug. Just don't use IBM debug ever again, and you will triple your productivity and become a much better and more valuable programmer. What does it do? Essentially, this is a little summary of the RTPA output. This was output to printer, even though it could be output, RTPA could be output to a DB2 disk file. What it shows is that statement 302 of this RPG free format program was executed, and the contents of the variable T order was 1500. And what's not shown is on the right is the timestamp of that actual executed instruction. And it's done literally tens of thousands of times every second. RTPA is developed by Arkansas Associates, and it's distributed, as were the IBM I install user programs that I wrote for IBM when I was an IBM systems engineer, is available without warranty, express or implied. Without spending a lot of time on this debugging, you can read it, but essentially it's proven in effect, that, and in my personal experience with thousands of programmers, that 75% of my time previously and programmers' times today without RTPA is spent on trying to figure out what's happening, on debugging, on guessing what's happening. It's all eliminated with RTPA. And the text in red here shows that in general they're saying it costs people more than computer customers, $100 billion a year annually. The wonderful IBM IT Jungle magazine, edited by Timothy Prickett Morgan, shows that some of the statistics that are used on this analysis, and you can see that there are 384,000 estimated IBM I programmers. That multiplies very easily at $100,000 annually with fringe to $40 billion cost of IBM I programmers to IBM I customers annually. It's actually probably more than that. And here's a COBOL IBM I job ad that I just got this week, and it shows $130,000 potential salary for that person. That money is mostly wasted, not because of the IBM I programmers' fault, but because they're still using the antiquated IBM debug, guessing what's happening instead of using RTPA, which is being offered for essentially free with this video presentation. Next is essentially what makes it all possible. Well, it's the IBM Power 9 and Power 10 computers that are so infinitely powerful, as you'll see in literally 2 or 3 minutes, that computing is basically free, and the programmer is basically incredibly expensive. And RTPA uses that power of the computer to multiply the power of the programmer. And here's some examples from that article that you can see in IT Jungle, that the computer is really a million times faster than it was, the IBM I, and free, essentially free. So RTPA uses that where the programmer is not able to use that without it. It's as simple as that. Now we're getting into the actual demo. The demo is on an IBM I Power 9, the current version 7, release 5. It's a 2400 CPW, which is a computer processing workload, a measure of power, and an LPAR. That LPAR could be one of 10 or 20 or 50 in a single IBM serial number, and it costs $250 a month from Cloud First, and comes with 3 VPNs. These are 4 quick videos which I'll show you that actually in the demo but it shows that the LPAR, the IBMI LPAR, comes with every IBMI compiler: RPG, RPG3, COBOL, C, C++, Java, available for the use of the customer. And you can see on the right, I did a work system status, and that shows that we're only using less than 1% of this LPAR, which could be 40 or 50 LPARs on this single IBM serial number. On the lower right, we'll compile the largest RTPA program, which is the program that inserts the expanded statements that enable the streaming video of the execution of the program. And it's a 25,000 line source statement RPGLE program, and you'll see it expands in three elapsed CPU seconds. And then on the lower right will show a typical RPG batch program test basic being expanded, and that's how RTPA enables the programs. Here's what we're going to do, actually very quickly, right now, within a minute, and it just shows how we're going to showcase the power of the IBMI Power 9 or Power 10. I'm going to show literally a minute each for how RTPA expands it, and then we're done with the presentation. So now what I'd like to do is actually go into the presentation, to actually sign on to the IBMI Cloud First LPAR, $250 a month LPAR, and I'll sign on as a USA programmer. And I'll just do really quickly. It's been set up for use of RTPA, which means that that user has a set of libraries, and the RTP libraries, which you would get when you download this essentially free RTPA offer, are the expanded library, where all the expanded RTPA auditing statements are kept, and the expanded object library is used. The audit C is where the converted RPG3 to RPG4 programs are kept, and then ZZ audit is the actual downloaded RTPA object library that you would download. So we'll just very quickly try to breeze right through this. We'll go to the old SAU menu, and we'll do a 3, and we'll do the first. We'll compile the largest RTPA program, the 25,000 statement program. It's an RPGLE program, and it's in file QRPG, and it's in the source library, which you don't get, and we're going to compile it to Q10. So we'll just compile that, and this 25,000 statement program, huge statement, does all the work to create a streaming video. You can see that it's compiled, and there it is. It's a create binding program, and if I window 35, you can see that it starts at 30 seconds, 25 minute 30 seconds. You go to the bottom, 880 pages later, it's 34. So it was 30 to 30, took actually 4 elapsed CPU seconds. And there could have been 100 IBMI programmers using this LPAR or computer, IBMI computer, at the same time, essentially for free, getting this kind of capability, incredible capability. You can see there are 25,510 RPG LE statements written by me to make this all happen in one of the major programs, and it's all free. You can compile it 100 times a day, or 1,000 times a day if you need to. So we'll stop there. Now I'll go actually into RTPA. First thing I'll do is I'm going to enable a CL program. This CL program was the one that we're going to demo, and that passes an order number and line number to an RPG program, and that's what we'll actually demo today. So we can enable CLP programs, COBOL programs, and RPG programs of different flavors, and make them into programs that audit themselves and provide a streaming video. So we'll hit Command 10, which is how to do it. There are many options, but basically there it is. We've enabled that RPG, that COBOL. We've enabled the CLP program, which is only 13 statements, and we've expanded it to the RTPA expanded program, including and compiled the expanded version, so we can execute that program, and that's what provides the streaming video. So we're done with RTPA for CL. We'll do RTPA for RPG, which is command RTPA, and that program we're going to do. It's an interactive. We'll actually do a test basic. We'll do a batch program to make it simple to start. It's a batch program, and we're going to expand it. Screwed up. Oh well. Not to worry. If I could only type, I'd have been famous. There it is. Test basic. This is the RTPA, the RPG version of RTPA, which expands all kinds of RPG programs. And that program, Test Basic, which is 109 source statements, we've inserted 771 statements and put the expanded source and object, compiled the object to the temporary program, the library ZZ Audit E, that's what we're going to execute. There are 24 variables in that program, and we're going to audit them all every time they're actually used in the program. So we'll actually execute it. Now, as a programmer, you could simply call that program. Well, let's call Test Basic first. Let's call Test Basic, which is the batch program. And there it is. That's what you see as an RPG programmer today. You see nothing. You see, you wonder what's happening. Whether the program was 100 statements or 25,000 statements, you have no clue as to what actually happened, unless you start using debug and guessing and trying to figure out what happened. Well, RTPA solves that by, if we just do a workout queue, we can see, and we've ordered this to print, where it could have been to a DB2 file. That produced 2 pages of output, actually. And that's what it did. RTPA shows you exactly what happened, what happened. And the first statement actually executed in Test Basic was the source statement 48, which was a comment, and then 49 was a 0 and add 250 to a variable called CUCust, and that's the contents of that variable, and it goes all the way down, showing it till the end of the program. And if we window over, we can actually see the timestamp of who did it, the job, the fact it was RPG, the statement executed, or the operation executed, the program, and then the timestamp of every single executed statement in the program. You can see they're all the same. They all executed in the same millisecond as the program executed. So that's Test Basic. So kind of run through here. We'll do RTPA again, and this time we'll do the program NEWEXPSH, which is the large interactive program. We'll demonstrate that and how RTPA solves the help desk problem. So NEWEXPSH, we'll expand it, and what that is, it's a huge interactive program, and we're inserting the RPG statements into library ZZ Audit E, and we've done that, and that program, NEWEXPSH, had 1,100 statements. We inserted 5,000 audit statements in a copy of the program and compiled the copy of the expanded program to ZZ Audit E. so we don't change your source or running environment. And that had 220 variables, that program. We're auditing every single one every time they're used. And there's many other options. You can watch variables. You can do a lot of things. You can even look at what programs NEWEXPSA called, and you can audit them. So you can audit literally all the programs in a program stream. So now let's go run that program. We'll do ZZ test. This is the CLP that we've already audited that calls the program NEWEXPSH. So now we're interactively actually executing this interactive program. And if you look at the customer number, which is 1,000 ABC stores, yeah, you can see there's a bug. That's having spent decades on a help desk or help desks. I can tell you that would cause a help desk call and all kinds of aggravation and hand-wringing, and to try to figure out what caused that problem. Well, we don't need to do that because we can actually look inside the computer while the interactive program's running. We can display the spool files, and one of them is this program. This audit happened to be onto a printer, could be to a disk file, and we can see that the interactive program NEWEXPSH is being audited, and the first statement executed was this subroutine, the initialized subroutine at statement 1176. But what am I interested in? I'm interested in where's this 2050 coming from? 2050. Well, if I keep 2050, I can see there on page 18, if I window -2, two statements, I can see that it's statement 556, when I've updated the record twice, there it is, it was equal to 2, I added this spurious 1050 in the program, and that's my bug. And I can see, if I window 205 to end the issue, I can see the timestamp of everything, and the fact that, once again, this tiny little Power 9 IBM I, in the same exact millisecond, executed all these instructions, and you can see who actually executed it. So there it is. There goes the help desk, essentially, in terms of figuring out, redoing, debugging. Well, it's all gone because it's all wasted time. And you have a permanent record of what happened, a permanent audited record of what happened when that program executed. So the last thing I'll demonstrate, I'll demonstrate two more tiny quick things and we're done. I'll do the last of the major, I'll do RTPA for COBOL. And if you're a COBOL programmer, like that $130,000 COBOL programmer, there's a COBOL program, and we're gonna expand it. And there it is, expanded. Inserted 297 statements, and we're going to audit all 3 COBOL variables, and also we'll call it. We executed it. Once again, if you didn't have RTPA, you have no idea what actually happened. But if you just look at the work, if you just look at the output queue, there it is on the output queue. If it was ZZ audit D, it would have been output to a database 2 file, and you could use all kinds of artificial intelligence and control of the user applications, and that is all in the future. There it is. There's the COBOL statement for those who know COBOL, and in statement 38, we added 123.45 to field AA, and there's the contents of AA. There's V, there's a divide, there's whatever, and there's the same exact thing in the CB COBOL LE program. And there's once again the same millisecond for all those instructions that are executed, and that's valuable in itself. for so many reasons, as you'll see in the RTP videos. The last thing I'll do, and we're done, is I'll sign on to German, as if we were in Germany, and we'll do RTPA. And now you can see everything is in German. The literals, whatever is in German is in Germany, and I'll just do test base. It doesn't matter what I do. Now, basically, we're not looking at CCSID English 037. We're looking at CCSID 273, which is German. And notice the dates are reversed and whatever, and everything's in German. Could have been French, Spanish, 30 different languages. And if we compile it and we look at it, there it is. You can see it's in German. We've inserted 771 statements in German, and notice the dates are European dates because that's the format of the dates for Germany, language DEU. So we'll stop there. That's the concept of RTPA. Instant knowledge. Think of Google Translate. Think of Google Search. Think of instant value for you as an IBM I programmer to provide to your IBM I customer in so many ways that you can't do now. And we'll stop. So let me just flip back here for the moment, if I can, to end the PowerPoint. There's the RTPA audit user manual. It shows exactly what you need to do and learn. And all these examples for RTPA, for RPG, for CLP, for COBOL, and how then RTPA is used in query and many other ways to multiply capability. And then, of course, coming for those alpha site users is RTPA on-demand cloud computing, like Google Translate, where it's not, you don't need to download RTPA. You simply upload your compiled listings, and virtually instantaneously comes back the expanded RTPA capability that you just saw. There are many other videos on the RTPA website showing exactly how these examples and many other sophisticated examples are actually used. Just as a summary, when I was an IBM engineer, senior engineer, I wrote 5 major products for IBM, which were installed worldwide, that were predecessors to the IBM, to the real-time program audit. And the key is that each one of those was an installed user program distributed as is RPG or TPA, as is, without warranty express or implied. We'll give it to you essentially, but what you see is what you get. If you'd like to discuss anything with me or IBM I or the real-time program audit partners, business partners, so you can simply call me or email me. We're the real-time program business partners, and you could be having RTPA in your capability within weeks or less, essentially for free, for the cost less than $200 to get it to you via the internet. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate it.